Manufacturing activity weakened across Europe and top Asian economies in November as soft demand and tariff uncertainty continued to weigh on factories. But there were bright spots for Britain and some economies in South Asia. Take a look.
Manufacturing was weak in Europe and Asia's biggest economies in November. That's according to key business surveys released Monday. Analysts blamed lower domestic demand and tariff uncertainties. The closely watched Purchasing Managers' Index, or PMI, showed manufacturing activity contracted in the Eurozone, China and Japan last month. But there were bright spots for Britain and some economies in Southeast Asia which saw growth. Eurozone manufacturing activity slipped back into contraction. Germany's dominant manufacturing sector saw a clear fall in business conditions and new orders dropped at the fastest rate in 10 months. Meanwhile, French manufacturing contracted further in November as a drop in production and slower demand for goods hit the sector. While Britain had its first rise in activity since September last year, it saw improved domestic demand and less of a slowdown in orders from overseas. A PMI showed factory activity slipped back into a slight contraction in China. The number was released a day after Beijing's official measure showed activity falling for the 8th consecutive month. Asia's other manufacturing powerhouses also struggled with sluggish demand in November. Progress in US trade negotiations didn't lead to a significant recovery in orders for the region. Japan's PMI showed new orders continued to decline, stretching the downturn to 2.5 years, while South Korea's factory activity also contracted for a second month in November.
And on to India. Now, India's own industrial engine slowed sharply in the month of October. New data from the National Statistics Office shows industrial production growth falling to 0.4%, a 14-month low compared to an upwardly revised 4.6% in the month of September. Now, the last time the Index of Industrial Production, or IIP, was this weak was back in August last year. On a year-on-year basis, IIP had grown 3.7% in October 2024, and growth between April and October this year averaged just 2.7%, notably lower than 4% during the same period last year. The October slowdown was driven by fewer working days and a steep fall in electricity generation. Manufacturing, which makes up nearly 78% of the IIP, grew 1.8%, sharply lower than September's 5.6%. Mining too shrank for the second straight month, contracting 1.8%, while power generation plunged as much as almost 7%, partly because of the extended monsoon and cooler temperatures across many states. Out of the 23 industry groups, 14 sectors, including food products, apparel, textiles, leather and pharmaceuticals, saw contractions in October. Only 9 sectors managed to grow, led by basic metals at 6.6%, petroleum products at 6.2%, and motor vehicles and trailers at 5.8%.